forecast. Much colder today with variable cloudiness, breezy with rain or snow showers in spots this afternoon, high of 45. A rain or snow shower in spots this evening, low 29. Rather cloudy tomorrow. A jacket may come in handy, high 38. Tuesday, high 53. Wednesday, some sun, high 58, low 41. Thursday, partly sunny and nice, high 64, low 49. Friday, mostly sunny, high 69, low of 59. And Saturday, a little afternoon rain, high of 64, low of 44. Iran recloses strait as U.S. continues its port blockade. Cairo. The standoff over the Strait of Hormuz escalated again Saturday as Iran reversed its reopening of the crucial waterway and fired on ships attempting to pass in retaliation after the United States pressed ahead with its blockade of Iranian ports. New attacks on the strait, through which roughly 1/5 of the world's oil normally passes, open to deepen the global energy crisis and push the countries into renewed conflict as the war entered its 8th week. A fragile ceasefire is due to run out Wednesday. Iran said it had received new proposals from the United States and Pakistani mediators and were working to arrange another round of direct negotiations. Iran's Joint Military Command said control of the Strait of Hormuz has returned to its previous state under strict management and control of the armed forces. Revolutionary Guard gunboats opened fire on a tanker and an unknown projectile hit a container vessel, damaging some containers, the British military's United Kingdom Maritime Trade Operations Center said. India's foreign minister said it summoned Iran's ambassador over the serious incident of firing on 2 India-flagged merchant ships, especially after Iran earlier let several India-bound ships through. For Iran, the strait's closure imposed after the United States and Israel launched the war on February 28th during talks over Tehran's nuclear program is perhaps its most powerful weapon, threatening the world economy and inflicting political pain on President Trump. For the United States, the blockade keeps up pressure and could strangle Iran's already weakened economy. Iran's new supreme leader, Ayatollah Mojtaba Khomeini, issued defiant remarks on Saturday, saying the Navy stands ready to inflict bitter defeats on its enemies. Quick turnaround. On Friday, Iran announced the strait's reopening to commercial vessels after a 10-day truce announced between Israel and the Iranian-backed Hezbollah militant group in Lebanon. Trump, however, said the U.S. blockade of Iran's ports will remain in full force until Tehran reaches a deal with the United States. Trump had imposed a blockade after a round of historic face-to-face talks in Pakistan between the countries ended without an agreement. U.S. forces have sent 23 ships to Iran since the blockade began Monday, U.S. Central Command said Saturday. Americans are risking the international community, risking the global economy through these, I can say, miscalculations, Iranian Deputy Foreign Minister Saeed Kazbada said, adding that the U.S. is risking the whole ceasefire package. Iran's Supreme National Security Council issued a statement calling the blockade a violation of the ceasefire and said Iran would prevent any conditional and limited reopening of the strait. Push for progress. A renewed standoff over the strait came hours after Pakistani Foreign Minister Ishaq Dar said his country was working to bridge differences between the U.S. and Iran. Iran's Supreme National Council said new proposals from the U.S. had been put forward during a visit to Iran by Pakistan Army Chief and were being reviewed. But Kazbada said Iranians were not ready for a new round of face-to-face talks because Americans have not abandoned their maximalist position. He also said Iran will not hand over its stock of 970 pounds of enriched uranium to the United States. Trump said Saturday that Iran got a little cute, but not very good. Conversations were happening and more information would come by day's end. They can't blackmail us, he added. Peacekeepers killed in Lebanon. French President Emmanuel Macron said a French soldier was killed and 3 others were wounded Saturday during an attack on a UN peacekeepers in southern Lebanon. Everything suggests that the responsibility for the attacks lies with Hezbollah, Macron wrote social media. Pakistan's foreign minister said fighting between Israel and Hezbollah had been a key sticking point in the U.S.-Iran talks. It was unclear to which extent Hezbollah would abide by the truce. It didn't play a role in negotiating, especially with the Israeli troops still occupying the stretch of southern Lebanon and Beirut. Displaced families began moving toward southern Lebanon and the capital's southern suburbs, despite warnings by officials to not return home until it was clear whether the ceasefire would hold. The Iran war has killed at least 3,000 people in Iran, more than 2,290 in Lebanon, and 23 in Israel, and more than a dozen in the Gulf Arab states. 13 U.S. service members have been killed. They're going to get me, Pharaoh's witness predicted. Quinn spoke of fear of bike club that was connected with Geraci. The first time she talked to FBI agents, Crystal Quinn feared sharing what she knew about her friend Peter Geraci Jr. and the Outlaws Motorcycle Club members connected to the Cheektowaga Strip Club owner. She believed the Outlaws will kill her dogs, and her mother, according to the FBI summary of what she told agents January 24th, 2023. 2 federal agents that day delivered her a target letter informing her she was under investigation for witness tampering. Quinn was with Geraci when threatening Facebook messages were sent from his Clarence home to another potential witness against him. The letter signaled a looming criminal charge against her, but also a chance to cooperate with law enforcement officials to ward off being fully prosecuted for interfering in a federal investigation of Geraci and his Pharaoh's Gentlemen's Club. Quinn, 37, talked with FBI agents at least 9 more times in the months that followed after agreeing to cooperate in the investigation with Geraci. By August of 2023, the former exotic dancer was found dead from a fentanyl overdose. Authorities believe she was murdered to prevent her from testifying in Geraci's trial. A court document filed in the U.S. District Court last month, but first made public in heavily redacted form Wednesday, reveals the extent of Quinn's interactions with the federal agents and prosecutors. A theme emerged from the FBI report cited in the U.S. court document. Quinn was afraid. "I'm scared for my life," she texted an FBI agent March 21st, 2023. Her cooperation mattered, prosecutors say, because of what she told them about drug use, sex acts, and sexual exploitation at Cerros. Geraci's relationship with Drug Enforcement Administration agent Joseph Biangiovanni, the identities of Outlaws members, and the drug use at the clubhouse, and Geraci's ties to the Outlaws. Geraci, with help of others, sought to prevent Quinn from cooperating with federal law enforcement. The entire purpose of killing Ms. Quinn is to prevent her from testifying about all of them. Assistant U.S. Attorney General Casey Callback and Nicholas Cooper said in their pretrial memorandum. The prosecutors filed the document as part of an effort to introduce Quinn's statements as evidence in the upcoming trial of the 4 men accused in federal grand jury and retaliating against her. Defense lawyers for the men contend she died from an accidental overdose and say prosecutors lack direct evidence showing a conspiracy to silence her. Meanwhile, Geraci accuses the FBI and prosecutors of putting extreme pressure on Quinn to testify against him, causing her to kill herself by overdosing. 4 people are accused in conspiring to kill Quinn. In addition to Geraci, they include Simon Gogolak, the man who called 911 to report Quinn's death at his Wellsville home. John Ehrman is Pharaoh's manager, whom prosecutors call Geraci's link to the Outlaws, considered a dangerous and violent criminal organization by law enforcement, and Wellsville resident Howard Hinkle Jr., among the last seen with Quinn. All 4 have pleaded not guilty and have been jailed for longer than 2 years as their cases proceed. 2 others will also be tried in the joint trial, accused of making false and evasive statements to law enforcement about Quinn's death. Michael Roncone, who is president of the Rare Breed Motorcycle Club's Wellsville chapter. Frank Knight, a Wellsville resident who lived across the street from Gogolak. Prosecutors have sought to connect Quinn's March 9th, 2023 grand jury appearance with Geraci's eventual detention. Geraci's ties to Ehrman's Outlaws and Rare Breed Motorcycle Club, links to Gogolak, whom a grand jury indicted for giving Quinn a lethal dose of fentanyl. The new legal filing provides a glimpse of what Quinn said to the FBI. In her words, January 4th, the target letter. When FBI agents delivered a target letter, Quinn said her main concern is the Outlaws. February 7th, the FBI arrest. February FBI agents arrested Quinn at her home on 3 counts of witness tampering over the Facebook messages. She said Gerace contacted her shortly after she last spoke to her attorney, which she found weird according to the FBI report. February 16th, becoming a government cooperator. At the outset of the interview, Quinn expressed concern for her safety. She said she was followed when leaving her attorney's office before her arrest. Quinn texted about the investigation. She said Gerace told her that a former dancer at Pharaoh's, who was a former inmate partner of his, was arrested and snitched on him to federal law enforcement when she broke after being in cell for 3 days. Quinn said Gerace told her Bon Giovanni was protecting him from feeding DEA false info into the DEA and would not look into Gerace or Pharaoh's. February 23rd, mob meetings. Interviewed by federal agents and prosecutors, Quinn described the meetings she observed at Gerace's home as mob meetings. February 27th, drugs at the Bikers Clubhouse. Quinn told federal officials she had been to the Outlaws Clubhouse and all those who entered had to leave their cell phones at the door. Quinn said she consumed cocaine at the clubhouse and once had a seizure from doing the drugs. She also described being a doped-out white girl on a man's lap at the private upstairs quarters of Pharaoh's, and how Quinn became upset because of how out of it the young woman was. March 7th, quit or sleep with him. Quinn told agents and prosecutors she did not think Gerace was a member of the Outlaws, but she knew he rode motorcycles with the club during their yearly pig roasts. March 14th, dead rats. Quinn said she had a dead rat found on her mother's vehicle in a driveway. The next day, another dead rat was found on her roommate's vehicle. She told FBI agents she was very scared. March 22nd, wounded pet. In a phone call, Quinn told FBI agents she noticed an eye wound on one of her 5 pet dogs. She believed the dog was assaulted and acknowledged it could have been accidental. My life has been turned into a nightmare and I want to move. My animals are my life, my family. They don't deserve this. June 9th, worried about getting jumped. By April 6th, the tampering charges were dropped. When the FBI installed the new security camera to safeguard her home, Quinn told them she was at home when a man received text messages she believed were intended for others. She believed the man was also involved in a plan to arrange for her to get jumped. What Quinn told others. The redacted court filing also indicates Quinn's statements to family and friends whose identities are blacked out. In July 2023, she told them that she was nervous about testifying in Gerace's sex trafficking, bribery, and drug case. In the grand jury testimony, Quinn recounted traveling to Wellsville with Gogolak. Prosecutors have said Gogolak and Quinn were high school classmates who knew each other since they were 18, but hadn't been in touch for many, many years until seeing each other at the local bar a week before she died. The two reconnected. She accepted his invitation to visit Wellsville. Quinn described the weekend trip as a way to get away for a few days to rest. The last thing Quinn told the person before leaving for Wellsville was, "I'll be back on Monday, and I love you." You're listening to a reading of articles and features from today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 14 minutes after the hour. Season ticket holders find loyalty to Sabres pays off. Mike Pagigo, one of a few thousand Buffalo season ticket holders that's stuck with the team through the entirety of the drought. He chalks it up to his love for hockey, a sport he grew up playing and remembers watching as a youngster with his father, as well as his loyalty to the Buffalo Sabres, even if they meant being loyal to a fault. But loyalty is finally paying off this season when the Sabres won in the Atlantic Division and on their way to the Stanley Cup playoffs for the first time in 15 years. It's cool to get that feeling again, to get out of your seat and be genuinely excited on a scoring goal or a play, he added. Not only have the Sabres season ticket holders witnessed some of the finest hockey in franchise history over the past 2 decades, but some other significant perks have come along with it. That includes access to lower pricing for hot commodity playoff tickets. Full and half season ticket holders receive first access to scoop up first round playoff seats in any game. So did the 30,000 or so new holders who signed up for season tickets next season. Even fans with partial season tickets packages received access to buy tickets for 1 or 4 potential home playoff games before the seats went on sale to the general public Monday morning. Tickets for current season ticket holders also were priced lower than the ones that were sold to the general public and then ballooned to the cost in the secondary market. Pakigo will be attending Sunday night's opening playoff game after paying $46 each for a pair of tickets in the 300 level. It's nice to have some of the benefits of being a season ticket holder over the years, but this is the ultimate benefit, the cherry on top. It's all overdue, Pakigo said. You have to hope for the playoffs every season. When you purchase tickets, the Sabres believe they needed to take care of their most loyal fans who have made an investment in the team by holding onto season tickets over the years and purchasing them for next season to help build up what's a shrinking ticket base. Excuse me. When you go through a process like this, especially you've had a significant drought, you've got to go with your season ticket holders first, Pete Welly, the team's president of business operations, said. What a season it's been. The long, costly investment made the Sabres season ticket holders like Joe Hajali will pay off Sunday. Hajali of East Amherst has held on to season tickets that have been in his family since 1970. During some years of the drought, he couldn't give away the tickets to games. Now, he's become a very popular guy as friends and family vie for seats. And it will go up to another level in the playoffs, Hajali said. And to see them finally get the experience, that's amazing because it's such a difference. It's hard to explain the difference and what it's like. Charles Killian said he felt embarrassed at times to be a Sabres fan and a season ticket holder as the drought stretched on through many low points of the past 15 years. But his faith was rewarded this season, his 20th as a season ticket holder. There was some thought in my head like, why? What am I paying all this money for this mediocre product on ice, Killian said. But at the end of the day, I really enjoy watching hockey, and I know I would regret if I ever made the playoffs and I wasn't able to get tickets. Last season was a breaking point for Bill Stathopoulos. The Rochester area resident gave up his season tickets in the summer, though he did wind up buying a 10-pack of tickets for the current season. Stathopoulos told the Buffalo News in April 2025 that if the Sabres ever returned to the playoffs, he would return with the same enthusiasm as a teenage girl in the 60s awaiting a Beatles concert. I'm back, full season ticket holder with a full playoff game privileges, and I'm very thrilled at the turnaround. I'm super negative through November, and then the first week of December, he said, I'm stoked. I'm shocked at how well we've done. I'm proud of all of us. Proud of all of us that are fans. When Pakigo first got tickets, the Sabres were at the peak of their popularity, coming off consecutive Eastern Conference appearances, which resulted in season ticket member wait lists. The only reason he got in that was a friend's ticket partner was leaving the area. Pakigo had a ticket with that friend until 2016, when his friend had decided he had enough. Pakigo took over both tickets over the years of the drought. As the arena became a barren wasteland, he considered dropping the tickets, but instead decided to move around the arena to different seats to lower the financial burden. Now it's come full circle. Access price for playoff tickets. Access price key for playoff tickets. The Sabres stock of available first-round playoff tickets was all but gone about 15 minutes after they went on sale to the general public. Now they are being sold at 10 times the face value or more on the secondary market. Pakigo paid $46 for Game 1 tickets in Section 303. Similar tickets in Game 1 and 300s were being sold to the public for over $100 on Monday and are now on the secondary market for nearly $450. At one point, the cheapest ticket in the 300s for the series opening game climbed as high as $650. Another current season ticket holder in Section 112 told the Buffalo News his ticket prices were $86 a piece for the first round. Similar tickets on Monday were going for over $300, and now they're in the secondary market for $775. While most ticket holders are going to the game, some bought extra seats just to sell. On Monday, many fans were upset they could not get their hands on tickets or any of the 4 games and were completely priced out of with the expense of the secondary market. Unfortunately, all the success on ice translate into higher ticket prices. Nick Giamuso, founder and CEO of Buffalo ticket reseller VIPTix. It made plunking down money for season tickets next season a sensible decision for fans, helping the Sabres build up a fan base that fell around 9,000 this season. Even partial ticket packages were being rewarded. Sean Reed of North Tonawanda jumped on board to buy a 5-pack of tickets in January when the Sabres began to turn around. Tickets were reasonably priced as long as you had early access, Reed said. I wouldn't have been going to my first playoff game in about 15 to 16 years if I haven't done this. Stefan Mihailo of Alma had faith the Sabres would be making a much improved team and make the playoffs this season. He bought a 10-pack of home games in the summer, especially for the postseason ticket access. When the former Erie County controller found out he would only get tickets for the first-round game, he went all in and got full season tickets for next season, so he would have access to buy seats for any home playoff games. This was in July of last year when people thought that I was insane, but it certainly paid off, said Mihailo, father of 3 young children at 8, 6, and 4. Now I have 4 games in the first round, and demand is incredibly high. It's game day, and our team has you covered. Scan the code for the latest news analysis in today's playoff game from reporters Mike Harrington, Rachel Lenzi, and Lance Lasowski and Francesca Bond. Check out the scene behind and inside KeyBank Center through photos and video by Joshua Bissek and Harry Skull. Let's look at national news. Mandelson's nightmare could end Starmer's stint as UK leader. British Prime Minister Keir Starmer probably wishes he had never heard the name Peter Mandelson. Starmer is again facing questions over his future, and again it's to do with his misguided decision to appoint a self-professed best pal of convicted sex offender Jeffrey Epstein to the most plum job in the UK, diplomacy ambassador to the United States. 2 months ago, when he was last imperiled over the appointment in late 2024, it was his judgment that was in question, enough for some in the Labour Party, including its leader in Scotland, to urge him to stand down. Now he's facing accusations that he misled Parliament over how Mandelson cleared the official hurdles to get the job in the first place. If he's found to have done so, he will be on thin ice, not the least because Starmer's put his integrity at the heart of the pitch to the British electorate at the July 2024 election to replace the scandal-plagued Conservatives. Starmer set himself up as a guy who always follows the rules, in contrast to, say, Boris Johnson, who came to power effectively promising to drain the swamp, said Tim Ball, politics professor at Queen Mary University of London. Vetting bombshell. On Thursday, the Guardian newspaper revealed that Mandelson, 72, failed security vetting before he took up the ambassadorial post in early 2025. That's a problem for Starmer, who told Parliament that full due process was observed. The government stressed that Starmer and other ministers only found out earlier this week that the Foreign Office had cleared Mandelson for the job despite the assessment. Starmer is trying to fend off questions about what he did or didn't know about the vetting process, which would have involved the assessment of Mandelson's suitability for the role in light of questions over his finances, his relationship, including that with Epstein and his personality. People familiar with the vetting process said it's standard practice for ministers not to be told because of their sensitive personal information involved. Starmer's also facing questions about whether he effectively had given direction to officials to sidestep concerns over Mandelson. Not Mandelson again. Mandelson was high-risk appointment given he had twice resigned from the Labour governments for financial and unethical missteps around the turn of the century, and his acquaintance with Epstein, who died in prison in 2019. The calculation seemingly made by Starmer was clear. The risk was worth it, as Mandelson's lobbying skills and previous trade expertise would help persuade the Trump administration to spare the UK from some of the most onerous tariffs. That appeared to work, but by September of 2025, the narrative changed after the release of emails showed that Mandelson had supported Epstein even when he was facing jail or sex offenses. However, the release of millions of pages of Epstein-related documents by the U.S. Justice Department in January put an end to that. Starmer's political judgment was questions after emails in the Epstein file suggested that Mandelson was a member of the Labour government in 2009 and 2010 and pressed on sensitive and potentially market-moving government information to the disgraced financier. Starmer had repeatedly apologized to the British public and to the victim of Epstein's sex trafficking for believing that he has termed Mendelsohn lies. Nightmare will go on. Despite Starmer's dire personal ratings and anticipated heavy electoral defeats in labor in a raft of local and regional elections in May, the frenzy around leadership has died down. Now his job is in danger again. The scandal is not ending, said Cami Badenoch, leader of the main opposition Conservative Party. Starmer's party commands a large majority in Parliament, so the Prime Minister's fate depends on what the Labour lawmakers think. On Monday, Starmer will gauge the mood as he makes his statement. So far, his party has said he should go. If more Labour lawmakers put their heads above the parapet following a weekend of campaigning in the local electoral patches, he may be in real trouble. Locating art looted by Russia, a challenge in Ukraine. While Elena Dasenko returned through a museum after Ukrainian forces retook the southern city of Kherson from Russian forces in late 2022, she found thousands of artworks had vanished. I walked in and saw empty storage rooms, empty shelves. My legs gave way, and I sat down by the wall like a child, the Kherson Art Museum director said. Before Russia's full-scale invasion in February 2022, the museum held more than 14,000 works in the collection, ranging from America to Japan. As the Russians retreated, they loaded much of it onto trucks and took it into Russian-annexed Crimea, according to Dutsenko, and video filmed by residents. The fate of nearly 10,000 pieces remains unknown. Ukraine is again raising its voice over the looting as Russia seeks to return to the world's cultural stage. Next month, Venice's Biennale plans to allow Russian representatives to take part. In the first time since 2022, Ukraine has said the event must not become a stage for whitewashing the war crimes that Russia commits daily against the Ukrainian people and our cultural heritage. Rare Documents case. The Kherson case stands out because Ukraine knows exactly what was lost. Years before the war, Dutsenko began photographing every item in the museum's holdings, creating a digital archive. When Russian forces occupied Kherson, she said she hid the hard drives containing it. After the Ukrainian troops returned, she retrieved them. Today, the archive forms the most detailed record of looted cultural property during the war, allowing prosecutors to work with Interpol to trace missing works and pursue those responsible. The Russian Culture Ministry did not respond to the Associated Press for comment on the alleged removal of items from Ukrainian museums. Kirill Stretmusov, the former Russian installed deputy administrator in Kherson, who died shortly before Ukrainian forces liberated the city, said removed statues would definitely return once fighting stopped. Catalogs and checkpoints. Helena Chomek, former director of the Donetsk Regional Art Museum, fled Russia-controlled Donetsk in 2014, carrying what she could catalog, documenting only a fraction of the museum's roughly 15,000 artworks. She spent a year transporting the catalogs through checkpoints into Ukrainian-controlled territory, leaving most behind. She did not try to draw attention to pro-Russian forces who searched her crossing. It took his team over 3 painstaking months to process about 400 works. Once completed, the database will be given to Ukrainian authorities, providing a partial legal basis to claim ownership of missing items. Open source intelligence. Officials say many cases across Ukraine resemble Donetsk's more than Kherson. Anna Sonsonka, deputy head of war crimes unit of Ukraine's prosecutor general's office, said her department is handling 23 criminal proceedings involving cultural crimes, covering 174 episodes of looting, damage, and destruction. The Kherson Museum case is among the priorities, she said, largely because Dutsenko's digital archive. Sonska said Russian forces often remove inventory books and other documentation from museums, making it hard to establish what was taken. An unknown scale. Ukrainian officials say the scale of looting far exceeds what can be documented. According to Ukraine's Culture Ministry, Russia, as of March, had destroyed or damaged 1,707 cultural heritage sites and 2,503 cultural infrastructure facilities, including event spaces and galleries, notably in the Mariupol Drama Theater. The ministry said over 2.1 million museum objects remain in Russian-occupied territories. Of the territories Ukraine has retaken since 2022, over 35,000 museum items are confirmed to have been looted. You're listening to a reading of articles from today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Radio reading service. The time is 30 minutes after the hour. High prices for gas become another midterm warning sign for the GOP. In midterm elections that will likely be decided by how voters feel about the economy, Republicans are grappling with how to discuss the war in Iran and how it impact on fuel costs. Republicans have spent the weeks before the war touting lower prices under President Trump. Now, with national average for gas rising above $4 a gallon for the first time since 2022, and the Trump economic approval ratings at a record low, Democrats are seeking to tie the war to their broader affordability message, arguing Republicans are more focused on foreign affairs than reducing the costs at home. The Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee, House Democrats' campaign arm, started running digital ads last month in all of their 44 target districts, blaming congressional Republicans for higher gas prices. Some Democratic candidates, like Janelle Stelson, who is seeking a rematch against Representative Scott Perry, Republican from Pennsylvania, have taken their message directly to the voters at gas stations. We should be spending more money at home, not $1 billion a day for a war in Iran, Stelson said. Meantime, you have everybody here in central Pennsylvania saying, look at me, I need help. The Center for Strategic and International Studies, a Washington, D.C.-based think tank, has estimated that war costs are more than $890 million a day. Perry's campaign did not respond to requests from CNN, but the congressman told the city and the state of Pennsylvania that he hoped to see gas prices fall soon. Like so many citizens across our region and nations, I want gas prices to come down, and I understand firsthand the strain the high prices put on families, Perry said. Republicans have argued that higher gas prices are temporary, even though the gas prices tend to shoot up quickly when oil becomes more expensive and take longer to fall when oil prices decline. Analysts say that high gas prices will linger even after the military conflict ends. The House GOP campaign arm also points to policies like tax breaks on tips that it says have boosted incomes. A right message. Democrats note that lower oil prices don't necessarily mean voters will feel it at the pump, and prices in other sectors are high. No matter how hard you try, there's absolutely no way congressional Republicans to outrun the political albatross that their broken promises and affordability have become when the midterms arrive and voters reject them. Democratic Congressional Campaign Committee spokesperson Viet Shelton said in a statement, throughout the war, Democrats have zeroed in on comments about the Republican opponents and have made seeking to justify the war or urging Americans to endure higher gas prices temporarily. In Minnesota, Republican Senate candidate Michelle Tafoya, former NFL sideline reporter, encouraged Americans to keep a stiff upper lip. Maybe you take one less trip to Starbucks or so that gas goes a little further until the thing is over and these gas prices come down again, she told radio host Todd Starner last month. Let's just try to be patriots about this. In San Diego, where Republicans are hoping to hold on to their redrawn House seats being vacated by Representative Dara Issa, San Diego County Supervisor Jim Desmond defend the war efforts after he launched his campaign last month, saying it was necessary to prevent Iran from getting nuclear weapons. No pain, no gain, Desmond said on Real American News. One of the Democrats running an open primary for Issa's old seat, San Diego City Council member Marnie von Wilpert, has referenced the comments throughout her campaign, including her own gas station press conference. Republicans have also commented on the current spike in gas costs and higher prices under former President Joe Biden. Gas prices rose to a record high average of $5 a gallon in 2022, according to AAA, fueled by Russia's invasion of Ukraine. Asked how much longer these constituents will need to tolerate gas prices over $4 a gallon, New York Representative Michael Lawler told Bloomberg News his constituents suffered greatly under those prices under Biden. Many of the Democratic colleagues said everything was great. But the fact is, this is a short-term fluctuation in the oil markets that we will focus on like a laser to bring down, ensure that gas prices come back to below $3 as expeditiously as possible, Lawler said. In Democratic-led states like California and New York, where costs for gas and other goods were already high compared to the rest of the country, Republicans are urging other candidates to shift some of their attention to Democratic policies they argue have contributed to higher costs. Brett Buchanan, a Republican pollster, advised his party's candidates to be transparent with voters about the path forward. People want to know what the plan is. Voters are more forgiving when they know what's ahead, even if it means we're going to have high gas prices till the end of August. Continuing along now, dangerous fentanyl substitute is surging among drug users. Nearly 2 decades after drug addiction sent him to a rehab as a teenager, 36-year-old Michael Niliwawa had settled into a quiet life in Alaska where he worked as an electrician. That all came crashing down 2 days before Thanksgiving 2025, when he and a mutual friend unknowingly took a lethal cocktail of fentanyl and carfentanil they may have mistaken for cocaine. I heard the word autopsy and I literally just collapsed on the floor, his mother, Kelly Nelawaja, said, recalling the call she received from his wife. Even if somebody had been there prepared with Narcan, even if somebody had called 911 at the time, he was not going to survive. Carfentanil, a weapons-grade chemical that authorities say is 10,000 times more potent than morphine and 100 times more stronger than fentanyl, had seen a drastic resurgence across the U.S., killing hundreds of unsuspecting drug users. The rise coincides with the recent crackdown by the Chinese government on the sale of precursors and the use of fentanyl. The surge of a drug so deadly that less than a poppy seed-sized amount can kill a person comes as the fentanyl seizures, overall drug overdose deaths continue a multi-year decline. You're talking about not even a grain of salt that could potentially be lethal. Frank Tarantino, DEA's chief of operations in the Northeast region from Maine to Virginia. This presents an extremely frightening proposition for substance abuse people who seek opioids on the street daily. Carfentanil surge. A decade ago, carfentanil exploded into the North American drug supply, causing hundreds of unsuspecting drug users to overdose. But the situation has shifted dramatically in recent years. In 2025, DEA labs identified carfentanil 1,400 times in U.S. drug seizures compared to 145 in 2023 and 54 in 2022, according to DEA records. Traffickers in Mexico may be experimenting with producing carfentanil themselves, authorities say. Complicating matters for the cartels are the extreme dangers associated with manufacturing carfentanil. You don't just dabble in this, he said. This is not some mad scientist on Reddit. You're going to go out to rudimentary laboratory in Mexico to make it. You're going to go out on a rudimentary laboratory in Mexico to make carfentanil. Dip in death seizures. U.S. overdose deaths have fallen more than 2 years, the longest drop in decades. Experts point to several possible explanations, including the overdosing reversing drug naloxone being more widely available and the expansion of the addiction treatment. Some have also tied it to the regulatory changes in the U.S. has pressed for in China. Chemical weapon. With the prevalence of carfentanil still pales in comparison to fentanyl, experts are alarmed by the increase of substance research for years as a chemical weapon and deployed by Russian forces on Chechen separatists in 2002. It's a biological weapon, said Michael King, founder of Opioid Awareness Foundation. In 2024, overdose deaths involving carfentanil nearly tripled compared to the previous year, with 413 deaths across 42 states and Washington, D.C., according to the most recent data by the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. In recent months, the DEA has documented several large seizures of carfentanil. In October, the DEA Los Angeles Field Division found 628,000 pills containing carfentanil, while in September, officials seized more than 50,000 counterfeit M30 pills from a person at a gas station in Washington State that turned out to be a mixture of carfentanil and acetaminophen. It's all about money. In some cases, frequent drug users have become tolerant to fentanyl and are seeking out carfentanil despite the danger because of the sudden euphoria promises, explained Rob Tangay, senior medical lead for addiction services with Recover Alberta, a health agency in Canada. The toughest part of all this, he said, is that this is all about money. You're listening to a reading of articles and features from today's Buffalo News. Time is 40 minutes after the hour. Buffalo to host ceremony for Wilmer's Integrity Prize. After Robert G. Wilmers died in 2017, his friends in the Berkshires in Massachusetts, where the longtime M&T Bank chairman and CEO had a home, wanted to honor his legacy. They established the Robert G. Wilmers Integrity Prize, with first awards presented in 2021. This year, for the first time, the awards ceremony will take place in Buffalo on October 5th. It seemed fitting to bring the program back to our Wilmers roots this year, said Jennifer Trainer Thompson, the executive director and CEO of the Wilmers Integrity Prize. As his son Chris said at the opening of AKG, the new building, a few years ago, he may have been from New York City, but his heart was in Buffalo. We are excited and delighted that Governor Hochul will be joining us for the event, she said. The ceremony, the location is yet to be determined or confirmed. The prize is a national program. Efforts in arts, education, environment, law, medicine, nutrition, social justice, and social reform are eligible. 3 awards of $100,000 each with no strings attached. The Wilmers Integrity Prize seeks to elevate individuals who, much like its namesake, are working hard and acting with moral courage and thread integrity through the values and action organizers set. Wilmers was known for using his business acumen to turn M&T into a banking powerhouse, as well as his civic involvement and support for cultural institutions. Thompson said the program received quadruple the number of applicants this year from 44 states. The Wilmers Integrity Prize Board of Directors includes Renee F. Jones, who succeeded Wilmers at M&T. The selection committee includes Elizabeth Wilmers, widow of Robert Wilmers. The selection committee will meet May 19th to narrow the field of 10 finalists. Thompson said in past years the program has typically chosen a single $50,000 winner. Starting this year, the number of recipients has grown to 3. The expansion reflects the organization's growing commitment to recognizing that change matters across the diverse fields, who are working with great integrity and creativity to drive bold, positive change, organizers set. NBT Bank assured by insurance. Over the past few years, a number of banks have sold their insurance agencies, motivated by the high valuations for those businesses. NBT Bank has not gone that route. This is a value add to our customers, said Tucker Lonsberry, president of NBT Agency. It's really important to a true community banking model, which NBT is. For NBT, insurance is also a vital fee business alongside wealth management and retirement services. These 3 businesses add a lot of material value to how our financials work, Lonsberry said. 70% of our businesses is tied to our net interest income. This 30%, approximately, that is the fee income, is a real stabilizer for the bank like NBT, and it's one of the key pieces that makes us a strong bank. NBT bought Amherst-based Evans Bank about a year ago. In 2023, Evans sold its insurance business for $40 million. Kenneth Pollack, previously with Evans, now NBT's Western Region president, said Evans Bank and insurance teams benefited by working together. From the moment Evans Insurance was sold, we missed that partnership. Our community bank, as Evans was, and NBT certainly is, having the full array of financial service available to our customers is extremely important. We are thrilled to have it back. Lonsberry sold his own insurance firm to M&T Bank in 2003. That was a big moment in my career when I sold my independent agency, and I started from scratch just a few years prior, said Lonsberry, who lives in central New York. He worked at M&T before taking the reins at NBT Insurance in 2017. M&T went on to sell its insurance business in 2022. Now let's take a look at AI in your job hunt. Building your resume. An updated resume is one of the basic tenets of a job search. AI is a great tool for revamping CVs and cover letters, but experts warn that everyone else has also already realized this. AI absolutely does risk reducing your job application's material to the same style as every other applicant, says Daniel Zhao, chief economist at online job and recruitment site Glassdoor. Instead, take it a step further by using AI to personalize your approach to companies you're most interested in, recommends Daniel Chayat, CEO of recruitment for Greenhouse. You could, for example, get AI to read all of a company's reports for the past year to analyze its job openings to help you improve your cover letter or wording your resume in a very specific ways, going beyond the resume. You shouldn't just rely on your resume to land a job. The resume is still an important part of the job search process, but it's not sufficient. You need far more than just your resume, Pat Whelan, a project manager, said at LinkedIn. Whelan said job seekers should show off their AI skills that they have. LinkedIn teamed with some of the AI platforms such as Lovable and Relay app to certify a user of proficiency to use AI, for example, Vibe Code and app. Others, however, say it's important to make sure you have basic AI skills that office jobs of the future will require. Look at AI for guidance. Employers are now starting to include AI in their hiring guidelines to check whether the company you're applying for has rules to follow. Target software company SAP and cybersecurity company Zscaler are among employers that outline do's and don'ts using AI during recruiting. Use AI to prepare for an interview. If you've made it through to the interview stage, AI can be a successful tool to help prep you for your conversation with a hiring manager. Chat recommends getting the AI to tell you everything about the company, the industry, the job, the hiring manager, and the best practices for interviewing. Don't use it as an interview cheat. Some AI tools are marketed to job seekers to help them pass remote job interviews and tests, but experts say you should avoid the temptation to use them. The tools typically are used to listen to the interview questions and provide answers in a window overlaid in the video call, but it's often pretty obvious to the interviewer that you're using them. Chiat said customers have told him of interviews they've done in which the applicant has responded to every single question by saying, "Let me think for a minute," before replying, making it obvious they were reading off the AI answer. You're not fooling anyone, he said. AI-powered interviews. Once emerging trend, job seekers should be ready for AI-powered interviews. Many employers are expected to start deploying bots to carry out at least the initial round of interviews, either by the next chat, audio call, or video avatar. Chat predicts AI interviews will quickly spread because they allow for the quicker and fairer interview process. Being comfortable with being screened by a bot first is something that will help you gain an edge on the job seeker, Chiat says. It will make you more applicable for more jobs. As part of our newspaper's reading, we now present today's death listings. If you need further information on any of these names, please call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Abels, Jr., Esk, Joseph A., Battaglia, Catherine B., Nee Belanca, Beck, Susan M., Nee Turner, Beats, John M., Bishop, Mary Lou, Bly, Marcia M., Bossman, Owen G., M.D., Breton, Dale C., Bruckman, James M., Caligiuri, Reverend Monsignor Angelo M., Cappage, Gerard P., Gary, Carroll, Nora E., Nee Nefaki, Catalano, Dominic A., Crislet, James A., Coad, Jean, Connolly, Kolka, Vicky, Victoria, Dinan, Jeffrey E., Bubba, Eininger, Barbara A., Farrell, Daryl Lane, Nee Blatchy, Gauda, John T., Gengris, Marilyn Reed, Gordon, Jean A. H., Nee Heffron, Hance, Richard P., Rick, Hinckley, Philip C., Iwinski, Marion. Clem, Teresa, Nee Klump. Klanowski, Dolores M., Lori, Nee Klee. LeClaire, Danette May, Nee Eastman. Lundy, Esther Marie. McFarland, Delina Lindy Clapp. McCarthy, Mary E. McDaniel, J. McNally, Patricia Ann. Middlebrooks, Curtis R., Sr. Mullen, Elaine C., Nee Basil. Pearson, Ellen A. Ryan, Sean P. Sijakowski, Bruce N. Slattery, Paul, William. Smith, Diane M., Nee Schwenk. Smith, James P. Smith, Raymond J. Statura, Leonarda D. Kazakowski. Satorka, Francis Nee Jablonski. Troy, Eileen. Upson, Patricia Elizabeth Harris. Vogel, Augustine M. Augie, Nee Rizzo. Wall, Richard. Whalen, Laura Gale. Will, Rodney E. Willis, Sr., Jerome. Wright, Wayne Stephen. Youngers, Joan. If you need any further information on these names, please call us at 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Now let's take a look at the horoscopes. Happy birthday for Sunday, April 19th, 2026. You are driven, persevering, and goal-oriented. You're also decisive, efficient, and organized. This is a year of service, possibly service to your family. Therefore, take care of yourself because you will be a resource for those to turn to for strength, courage, and comfort. The stars show the kind of day you'll have. 5 dynamic, 4 positive, 3 average, 2 so-so, 1 difficult. Aries, March 21st to April 19th. 3 stars. Pull in your reins a bit and simply choose routine work. In other words, don't push things. Tonight, conversations. Taurus, April 19th to May 20th. 4 stars. Today, the sun enters your sign, where it will stay for the next 4 weeks. This happens once a year, and it gives you an opportunity to recharge your batteries for the rest of the year. Tonight, check your possessions. Gemini, May 21st to June 20th. 4 stars. Today, the moon is in your sign, dancing with Pluto, which makes you intense, passionate, and certainly obsessed with something. Tonight, you win. Cancer, June 21st to July 22nd. 3 stars. The next 4 weeks will be a popular time. Enjoy hanging out with creative, artistic people. Tonight, privacy. Leo, 4 stars. July 23rd to August 22nd. You should know that today the sun moves to the top of your chart, where it will stay for 4 weeks, symbolically casting you in a flattering spotlight. Tonight, friendships. Virgo, August 23rd to September 22nd, 4 stars. If you make a big deal of something, others will notice. Be patient about shared financial matters. Meanwhile, the next 4 weeks promise opportunities to travel and broaden your horizons. Tonight, you're noticed. Libra, September 23rd to October 22nd. 3 stars. Steer clear of controversial subjects today because you might be coming on too strong. Tonight, explore. Scorpio, October 23rd to November 21st. 3 stars. You will need more sleep in the next 4 weeks. Be aware of this and respect your needs for more rest. Tonight, check your finances. Sagittarius, November 22nd to December 21st. 4 stars. Today you'll have to go more than halfway when dealing with others. Be accommodating. It's no biggie. For the next 4 weeks, you'll find it easy to work hard. Tonight, cooperate. Capricorn, December 22nd to January 19th, 3 stars. Lucky you. Today you're entering a lovely 4-week window, which is more playful and fun-loving. Romance, fun diversions, vacations, sports events, and rewarding activities with kids will be your theme. Tonight, work. Aquarius, January 20th to February 18th. 4 stars. Home and family will be your primary focus for the next 4 weeks. Many of you might want to be more involved with usual with a parent. Tonight, socialize. Pisces, February 19th to March 20th. 4 stars. The pace of your days will accelerate in the next 4 weeks because suddenly you have places to go, things to do, people to see. Tonight, rest. You've been listening to a reading of articles and features from the Buffalo News for April 19th, 2026. We read from the Buffalo News live on weekday and Sunday mornings at 9 a.m. and rebroadcast it at 4 p.m. For more information, call 716-821-5555. That's 716-821-5555. Your reader today has been Ron Bickelman. Thank you for listening.
We'll continue now with our reading of articles from today's Buffalo News. Your readers is Karen. City police release footage of shooting of robbery suspect. Commissioner says deadly force was absolutely justified by Mackenzie Schumann. Buffalo police on Saturday released footage showing an incident in which officers fired at a suspect during an armed robbery attempt this week on the west side, and said it proved that just the use of deadly force was justified. Officials identified the officers involved as Nico Pascucci and Ezgi Dialik, and the robbery suspect as Dejuan Williams, 42, of Buffalo. During a news conference, interim Buffalo Police Commissioner Craig Macy said Dialik, who was appointed to the police force in July 2025, fired her gun at Williams twice as he exited the 7-Eleven. Her first shot hit Williams' gun, identified as a .22 LR revolver, and her second strike hit him in the arm, striking his brachial artery, Macy said. Whenever there is a person that is posing a threat to life, whether it's the officers or a civilian, officers have the ability to use lethal force, Macy said at the news conference. In this case, the subject is armed with a firearm. He shoots somebody and then points that firearms at the police. So that's absolutely justified. The incident began on Wednesday just before 9 p.m. at a 7-Eleven store on Prospect Avenue on Connecticut Street. In camera footage released by the police, Williams, who was on parole at the time of the incident, can be seen entering the store where there were two other patrons and a store clerk. After Williams appeared to walk around the store, he approached the store counter and waited until the clerk walked behind the counter. After a brief exchange, the camera footage appeared to show Williams take a gun out of his pocket and raise it in his right hand. Williams then immediately shot the clerk, according to the video footage. The clerk then appeared to grab a brown paper bag and place merchandise into the bag behind the counter. While the clerk did this, the video footage shows the suspect walking away from the counter and toward the store entrance, and then appeared to crouch down and point his gun outside the store behind the closed door before exiting the store with the gun still raised. Footage from a body camera worn on Pascucci showed the officer getting out of a police car, and as he approached the store, the suspect could be seen pointing a gun behind the counter. The officer's body camera footage then showed him moving to the left of the store's entrance. As Pascucci ran to the left of the store, the audio turned on in his body camera, and he's heard yelling, "Put the expletive gun down." A gunshot is then heard, and Pascucci says, "He's shooting," while he runs toward Connecticut Street, according to the body camera footage. Pascucci was then heard saying, "Radio shots fired, while he continued to run down the street, according to the body camera footage. Meanwhile, footage from a body camera worn on Dialik showed her approaching the 7-Eleven behind Pascucci. Pascucci was then seen telling her something, and she retreats to hide behind a pillar to the right of the store entrance. As she was hiding, the suspect was then shown running out of the store as Dialik raised her gun and shot him. The suspect was then seen in her body camera footage running out of the parking lot as shots fired is heard over her radio. Further body camera footage shows Pascucci showed him running after the suspect down Prospect Avenue yelling expletives. The officer was then heard yelling that the suspect was getting into a car, and police vehicles could be seen with their lights flashing and driving down Prospect Avenue. Buffalo police said the suspect drove northwest on Prospect Avenue and crashed into 3 unoccupied parked cars in the 800 block of the street. Police said they provided medical aid for a gunshot wound to Williams' arm before he was transported via an ambulance to Erie County Medical Center, where he continued to stay as of Saturday afternoon. Williams received multiple surgeries on his arm to repair the brachial artery, and he is expected to make a full recovery, Macy said on Saturday. Police expect to charge Williams with first-degree attempted murder, second-degree attempted murder, 2 counts of first-degree attempted robbery, and second-degree criminal possession. Macy noted that these charges could be increased following a police investigation. The 7-Eleven store clerk was shot in his upper thigh, Macy said. That person has been released from the hospital and is expected to make a full recovery, Macy added. Both police officers who work out of B District on Main Street have been placed on administrative leave, pending an investigation by the Erie County District Attorney's Office. The most recent police shooting in Buffalo happened March 5th when an officer shot a man suffering a mental health crisis who charged at officers while holding 2 knives. Charles E. Butler, 58, died at Erie County Medical Center after the shooting at a multi-unit house on Minnesota Avenue. An officer shot a woman armed with a knife on Donovan Drive on September 27th after she stabbed a man in the head. She survived and was charged with attempted murder and assault. Cheektowaga police fatally shot a man August 13th who lunged at them with a knife in an apartment building on Sanders Road in North Buffalo. State to consider sale, new operator for nursing home. It's taken more than 2 years to get here, but the planned sale of the highly rated Our Lady of Peace nursing care residence in Lewiston is finally up for state approval. If the state signs off on the proposed new operator, the 250-bed nursing home, which has a 5-star federal rating, will convert from a nonprofit to a for-profit facility. The plan, first reported in early 2024, is for Ascension Living to transfer ownership of Our Lady of Peace's operation to a private group called OLP SNF OPCO LLC, managed by nursing home administrator Bernadette Roche. The Public Health and Health Planning Council's establishment and project review committee will review the operator change on Thursday, and the full council is scheduled to take up the issue May 7th. Longtime operator Ascension Living is part of St. Louis-based Ascension, one of the country's largest nonprofit Catholic health system that owned Mount St. Mary's Hospital before Buffalo-based Catholic Health took ownership of the Lewiston Hospital in 2015. While Ascension maintained control of Our Lady of Peace even after the transfer of Mount St. Mary's Hospital, the massive company has no other holdings in New York State other than Our Lady of Peace, meaning almost all of its business is concentrated elsewhere. Ascension Living has continued to operate Our Lady of Peace as it awaits regulatory approvals for the sale. Financial filings, even with the state, show that breaking even at the Lewiston nursing home has become difficult in recent years, especially because the facility has struggled to staff its full lineup of beds. But the nursing home recorded improvements, notably 2025. Notably, it reached a 3-year collective bargaining agreement in May 2025 with its union workers, which helped to attract and retain new staff, according to state filings. That 3-year contract, which expires April 30th, 2028, covers 165 members represented by 1199 SEIU United Healthcare Workers East. Since we settled our most recent 3-year contract last summer, the employer has been able to reopen 3 units closed since the COVID-19 pandemic, as the wages and benefits secured by union members help to recruit and retain new staff at the rural facility, said Shamika Bernadette Matthews, 1199 SEIU administrative organizer. We look forward to establishing a relationship with new ownership and ensuring the wages, benefits, and working conditions our members have fought hard for over the years remain. The way the proposed transaction is structured, OLP SNF OPCO will buy the operations for $1.8 million, and a related entity, Lewiston SNF Propco LLC, with will purchase the real estate for $12.2 million. When the deal closes, the new landlord will lease the nursing home property to the new operator for $1.5 million annually, or $125,000 a month, according to documents filed with the state. The lease runs 20 years with 2 additional 5-year extensions, and base rent will be subject to an increase of 1% of the prior year's rent. The lease agreement is considered a non-arm's length arrangement, meaning the landlord and the lessee have a pre-existing relationship. These arrangements, also called related party transactions, have received scrutiny from regulators but have become increasingly common as more nonprofit operators have sold out to for-profit entities. As far back as 2020, 72% of the state's for-profit nursing homes disclosed business with at least one related company, according to research done by Bill Hammond, Senior Fellow for Health Policy at the Empire Center. Who are the proposed owners? The proposed new landlords, Lewiston SNF Propco, is 45% owned by Adam Offman, 20% each by Jacob Levine and Josh Brown, and 15% by Yakov Chapler. Meanwhile, Our Lady of Peace proposed operator includes members Pesach Brown and Faiga Chapler, each with 45% ownership share, and Bernadette Rush, who has a 10% share and is the managing member. Those 3 individuals also are acquiring the 147-bed nonprofit Kirkhaven Nursing Home in Rochester, a transaction that received a contingent approval from the state in December. Rush said, who has a master's degree in social work from University at Buffalo and a nursing home administrator certificate from D'Youville University, has more than 8 years of experience as a nursing home administrator. Rush is the vice president of operations of Crest Manor Living and Rehabilitation in Fairport and Eastside Nursing and Rehab in Warsaw. Pesach Brown is the CEO of New Jersey-based Fresh Sense Incorporated, which sells commercial scent systems to the healthcare industry. And Faiga Chapler is a homemaker who was previously an account manager with Rush King Promotions, a promotional product supplier, according to state filings. Ombudsman raises concerns. As part of the proposed ownership change of Our Lady of Peace, the Office of the State Long-Term Care Ombudsman also conducted a review of the 3 nursing homes with ties to the proposed operator. 2 of the facilities have significant staffing concerns, while one has failing laundry equipment and curtains that don't work, limiting residents from having appropriate light or being able to see outside. State Ombudsman Claudette Royal wrote April 1st to the council, charged with reviewing the ownership chains at Our Lady of Peace. At one facility, Royal wrote, staffing turnover has increased in recent months and the administration has been less responsive to residents and the ombudsman. This change is concerning, as currently the subject facility, Our Lady of Peace Nursing Care Residence, has a positive relationship with its residents and families, as well as the ombudsman, and the current administration is responsive to issues raised, addressing concerns timely. Royal wrote, the office has concerns that if these issues, as well as the equipment concerns in the other facility, become prevalent in this subject facility as well, that resident care will decline. Based on her office's review, Royal recommended the state consider contingent approval of the ownership change at Our Lady of Peace. That contingent approval, Royal wrote, would call for the proposed owners to develop plans to address resident concerns, staffing, and equipment issues. While Our Lady of Peace has a 5-star or much above average overall federal rating, Crest Manor in Fairport has a 1-star rating, and Eastside in Warsaw has a 3-star rating. Recent struggles. Despite its high rating, Our Lady of Peace has struggled financially and operationally. Our Lady of Peace, with annual revenues of between $14 million and $16 million, had net losses of $4.4 million in 2022, $4.1 million in 2023, and $5.4 million in 2024, according to financial summaries submitted to the state. The nursing home has struggled to operate its full capacity of beds, most notably when a flood at the facility resulted in 50% of its beds being taken offline from December 2022 to October 2024. Ascension Living experienced delays bringing those beds back online, though that improved throughout 2025. The 250-bed Our Lady of Peace increased its average daily census from 140 residents to 168 residents throughout 2025. And as of early March, 179 of the nursing home's beds were staffed, and 173 of them were occupied by a resident. The proposed new operator told the state it plans to further increase occupancy, projecting a $16,800 profit in year one and a $1.5 million profit by year three. Further, the new operator said it plans to establish new marketing techniques, contact local area hospital discharge planners, and explore other potential sources of admission. It also plans to reduce agency staffing and strengthen operational stability at Our Lady of Peace. Building that housed Vizzi's in Kenmore up for sale again. Joe Vizzi said it would be nice to see someone revive the tavern in Kenmore he and his wife operated for 25 years. He just doesn't want to have anything to do with it. I hope somebody buys it and gets my name off the building, Vizzi said in an interview. That's all I hope for. I mean, I had a real good reputation there, and it's depressing for me to see the name still on that building and closed like that. Vizzi's drew a devoted following over the years, especially after the Buffalo News praised its cheeseburger in 2008, and it has been closed since a December 2018 fire. Joe and Mindy Vizzi had sold the bar and restaurant 1 year earlier, said Joe, and he had grown concerns about the direction taken by the new owner in the months since. The restaurant had just sat unused for more than 7 years, the subject of frequent online speculation about its future. Now Vizzi has a chance at new life. The latest owner, who bought the building at auction in 2024, has put the property back on the market. The real estate agent who represents the seller has leaned into the Vizzi history while marketing this property and said the listing has generated a good response. Most of the interest has been from the people that already knew Vizzi's and the potential right. So that was my hope, that people who know the place see the potential and invest in this, said Thijan T.J. Kadakuwan. Monster Burger lauded. Vizzi's Tavern and Restaurant opened at 967 Kenmore Avenue, several blocks east of Colvin Boulevard in the early 1990s. But Vizzi didn't gain widespread attention until 2008 when the news selected its cheeseburger as the region's best. This and other honors boosted sales at Vizzi's, which became known for its monster burger, heaping beef on weck sandwiches, and massive fish fry. Joe and Mindy Vizzi sold the business in 2017 to Sean Honan, who promised to keep Vizzi's largely as it is. Joe Vizzi told the News he and his wife had tried to ease the transition for Honan, but they became concerned about changes the new owner began making, such as ending the popular live music performances on Friday night. He just changed everything with that we had built for 25 years, and it just wasn't working, Vizzi said. 1 year after Honan took over on December 5, 2018, fire broke out in the apartment kitchen on the second floor of the Vizzi's building. The apartment was used as an office or for storage and wasn't occupied at the time, Kenmore police said later. The fire caused more than $200,000 in damage, primarily to the upper portion of the building, with the restaurant area receiving minor water damage, police said. A lengthy police investigation ruled out various accidental causes such as an electrical or cooking fire, but never pinned down whether the fire was intentionally set. The case was closed out with an underdetermined cause, Kenmore Police Captain A.J. Kiefer said this week. Honan initially said he planned to reopen, but he never did. Vizzy sat unused for years, even though to anyone who looked through the front window, the bar and restaurant appeared ready to serve customers. This fueled rampant speculation on social media, particularly Facebook groups devoted to Kenmore and the town of Tonawanda, where the prospect of a Vizzy's reopening became a running joke. Listed for sale. Honan, through his Honcho's Holdings Limited Liability Company, had taken out a $100,000 mortgage from Joe Vizzy as part of Honan's purchase of the property in 2017. Vizzy and court filings accused Honan of defaulting on the loan in 2020 when he stopped making the monthly mortgage payments. Vizzy won a default judgment in 2023 after Honan never responded to the legal action. A court-appointed referee determined Honan owed $139,548 in mortgage principal and interest, legal fees, and reimbursement for property taxes, court records show. Honan did not respond to messages seeking comment for this article. The restaurant property was foreclosed on and sold at auction in 2024 for $182,500 to Mohammed Janghir Alam. On a recent visit, the bar, dining area, and kitchen look largely like they did 7 years ago, while the second-floor apartment has been restored. A notice just inside the door of Vizzy's still asks customers to please wait, hostess will seat you. Other signs advertise $2.50 cans of Pabst Blue Ribbon beer, but caution that credit cards are not accepted. A page-a-day calendar shows the date of the fire, December 5th, 2018. Articles from the news and Buffalo Spree are mounted on the walls. Upside-down stools line one side of the dining area. Bottles of Stolica vodka, J&B blended Scotch whiskey, and other booze are behind the bar ready to pour. You'll be getting everything, Koduwako said, including the liquor. Alam is a real estate investor, not someone who operates restaurants, but he decided it was time to try to sell the property to someone else, said the Koduwako, the listing agent. Koduwako jokingly highlights the 6-7 in the 967 Kenmore Avenue address in a video touting the property's merits. The agent put the building up for sale last month with a list price of $499,999 and said it has already received attention from fans of Vizzy's. It's about the potential, right? It's not just a building, Gada Farwaka said, especially given that there was a good business here. Someone who's looking to do the same would make a good income here. Koduwako said a bar could succeed there because there isn't a lot nearby competition. Whoever would purchase it, I would hope that they could make it work as a restaurant once again, Kenmore Mayor Patrick Meng said, and hopefully that's their intention. Joe Vizzy, 81, said the building was home to a restaurant for decades, well before he and his wife opened theirs, and he believes it could host another one, ideally without the Vizzy's brand. I would not want my name on that building anymore, Vizzy said, adding dryly, unless they wanted to pay me to use it. You're listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 9:18. Excuse me, the time is 10:15. Buffalo has strong ties to presidential history. On September 14, 1901, Buffalo's most consequential encounter with the presidency reached its climax in a mansion on Delaware Avenue. In the crowded family library of his friend Ansley Wilcox, Theodore Roosevelt, 42, raised his hand and took the oath of office, becoming the youngest president in American history. Wilcox, a prominent Buffalo lawyer, looked on along with some 50 men and women packed into the room as federal judge John Hazel administered the oath around 3:30 p.m. the night before President William McKinley succumbed to gunshot wounds he suffered when he was shot by anarchist Leon Kolzik of Buffalo's Pan-American Exposition on September 6th. The Wilcox home was decorated for national mourning. A large American flag hung over the front entranceway, partly obscured by black bunting draped from the pediment. No photograph survives of the swearing-in, though 2 photographers were present. Both were ejected by Roosevelt after they began jostling for position while trying to stage the perfect shot. A few sketches of the scene remain, preserving the event's cramped, improvised quality. One early sign of Roosevelt's new approach came almost immediately from Buffalo. He wrote Booker T. Washington to express regret for canceling a planned trip to Tuskegee, then invited him instead to dine at the White House, a gesture that provoked outrage among many white Americans. In that sense, Spencer Morgan, executive director of the Theodore Roosevelt Inaugural National Historic Site, argues that Roosevelt's brief residency here marked something larger, the birth of the modern presidency. McKinley's assassination at the Pan American Exposition and Roosevelt's swearing in here were the most dramatic events that linked Buffalo to the presidency. But the episode was not the first or last encounter this region has had with the highest public office in the land. Buffalo can say it has played an important role in shaping the American presidency as candidates came here to court votes, launch their political careers, or visit as president to celebrate or mourn with us, crossing paths with history. In the 250 years since the nation was founded and 237 since its first national election, Buffalo produced 2 presidents, Millard Fillmore and Grover Cleveland, who both made their marks locally and through their historic decisions as president. And from the 19th century to the present day, many presidents have sought support in a city that was once at the center of American life. For a city of this size, the number of connections we have to the presidency is extraordinary, said Martin S. Nowak, the author of Buffalo and the Presidents. Nowak, a Buffalo native who is retired from the U.S. Department of Veterans Affairs, gives detailed accounts of some familiar and many less familiar facts and anecdotes about the presidents who hailed from here or died and were inaugurated here, and even those who were just passing through before, during, and after their terms in office. The first sitting president to set foot in what is now Buffalo was James Monroe. Nowak writes he was welcomed by a throng of people as he stepped out of the carriage and had launched at an inn that is not far from the current location of the Seneca Niagara Casino. Decades later, President Martin Van Buren stopped here to talk about Buffalo's strategic importance to the western frontier, as well as its potential to grow and prosper along the new growing country. Van Buren, however, wasn't as warmly welcomed as Monroe was 25 years before. Nowak writes that Van Buren was so unpopular at the time, a group of people accompanying the president primarily to cheer at the public events, and most of the time the locals he encountered either jeered him or only managed some polite applause. Fillmore, I hope I am permitted to return to you. Millard Fillmore, the 13th president, parlayed a successful legal career here to the State House in Albany and then the U.S. House of Representatives. As part of a political compromise, he was added to the ticket of Whig Party candidate Zachary Taylor as his vice president. Taylor won, but served only 16 months before dying in office, leading to Fillmore's succession. Historians have criticized Fillmore for his support of the collection of acts known as the Compromise of 1850, which included the notorious fugitive slave law. Nowak's book quotes from Fillmore's private letters where he professed to hate slavery but felt that as president he was obligated to defend it so long as it was authorized by the Constitution. Nowak said Fillmore knew his stance would be unpopular. He thought he was preventing war. He preferred to compromise and paid the price, Nowak said. Fillmore returned to Buffalo after finishing out his term, looking forward to traveling, but his wife Abigail soon died of pneumonia. In 1854, Fillmore's daughter died. The former president was not independently wealthy and resumed a law practice in Buffalo until his death in 1874. But Nowak writes that Fillmore must have found some solace returning to private life in the city he called home. During his first Buffalo visit as president, Fillmore's hometown pride feels familiar even 200 years later. He told the crowd of Buffalonians who came to greet him that he felt like he must be dreaming. I can hardly persuade myself that this is a reality. It seems more like some hallucination of the mind, but no, here is the reality, and the thousands of this mighty throng. I came among you not many years ago, a friendless boy. For all that I am, for all that I hope to be, for all that I hope to do for my country, I am indebted to you. And I hope I am permitted to return to you and spend my days with you, and at last to sleep in yonder graveyard and mingle my dust with yours. That last wish, of course, was granted. Fillmore is buried in Forest Lawn, where every year he is commemorated with a ceremony at his wife and his graves. Fillmore's legacy lives on in many local places' names, among them Millard Fillmore Hospital and Fillmore Avenue. Grover Cleveland, he soured on city that launched him. Cleveland left his home in New Jersey as a young man, hoping to make a name for himself in a place that seemed as sensible as any, Cleveland, Ohio. Cleveland was a relative of the man the city was named for, after all. But Cleveland got as far as his wealthy uncle's house in Buffalo and was persuaded to stay. He studied law, served as a clerk, and went into private practice, where he began to earn a reputation as a hardworking and honest, if not the most brilliant attorney at the bar. He was elected sheriff and served for 3 years. A decade later, in 1882, he was elected mayor of Buffalo, but he served less than a year. He won office on an anti-corruption platform, which brought him attention in Albany. Less than a year later, he was governor of New York. Shortly after he was elected president in 1884, after defeating James Blaine in 1888, Cleveland won the popular vote but lost the electoral vote, and therefore the presidency, to Benjamin Harrison. In 1892, Cleveland, a Democrat, returned to office after defeating Harrison. This made Cleveland the first U.S. president to serve 2 non-consecutive terms until Donald Trump was elected to a non-consecutive second term in 2024. The reform-minded Cleveland already had become distancing himself from Buffalo once he got to the White House, and the reasons were both principled and deeply personal. As president, he championed the still new civil service and declined to offer patronage jobs to his friends back home, alienating him from some. Furthermore, Nowak writes, Cleveland spent many years feeling bitter about his treatment at the hands of the Buffalo press during a paternity scandal. Cleveland was accused of fathering a child out of wedlock. While the scandal didn't end his political career, Nowak wrote that Cleveland resented his friends who chose to stay silent rather than defend him. When Fillmore left office, he couldn't wait to get back here. Cleveland never wanted to set foot here again, Nowak said in a phone interview from his home in Florida. Near the end of his life, Nowak said Cleveland did mellow in his attitude about Buffalo and reconnected with some old friends before he died in 1909. Regardless of his complicated feelings about the Queen City, Buffalo remembers the 22nd and 24th president in street and school names and the Grover Cleveland Golf Course. Campaigns, debates, and chicken wings. From the 20th century onward, many presidents have come to town for civic events or to promote their own campaigns. William Howard Taft made several visits to Buffalo, including a campaign visit where he spoke to a crowd of 12,000 who welcomed him with an ovation that lasted 14 minutes. But decades later, bigger crowds turned out to see then Senator John F. Kennedy, who was engaged in a close race with Richard M. Nixon to succeed Dwight Eisenhower. In September 1960, just days after his famous televised debate with Nixon, Kennedy spoke to thousands of people in Niagara Falls and Lockport before taking a motorcade to Kleinhans in Buffalo, where he spoke to a packed house of 3,000. Hours later, he addressed a full house of around 20,000 at Buffalo Memorial Auditorium, where Nowak writes that the future president was greeted like a rock star. A month later, Nixon gave his own speech to a packed house of 20,000 at the Aud, where he waved at the audience in a way that will sound familiar in depiction of Nixon, with his arms above his head in a V for victory signs. Kennedy's most well-known trip to Buffalo happened on October 14, 1962, at the peak of the Cuban Missile Crisis. Despite the international tensions, now President Kennedy arrived to appear in the annual Pulaski Day Parade. Nowak described the mayhem as Kennedy's motorcade joined the parade at the intersection of Broadway and Fillmore. The people at the curbside were now 5, 10, 20 deep along Broadway as the president's limo headed slowly downtown. The crowd along the parade route was estimated to be about 200,000 that day, as Secret Service agents had to keep pushing the crowd away from Kennedy's open convertible car, he wrote. Barack Obama visited twice as president, most recently in 2013 at Buffalo, where he launched a bus tour across New York State to highlight issues in higher education. More famously, Obama's first stop in Buffalo was May 13, 2010, after meeting with families of the victims of the Flight 3407 plane crash. His motorcade took him to Duff's famous chicken wings on Dick Road, where the president ordered wings, fries, and onion rings. Donald Trump visited Buffalo several times before he was president. In 2016, Trump held a campaign rally at KeyBank Center. Joe Biden, evil will not win. The last sitting president to visit Buffalo was Joe Biden. He and his wife, Jill, laid flowers on May 17, 2022, at a makeshift memorial outside Tops Supermarket on Jefferson Avenue, where the racist mass shooting that took the lives of 10 people had occurred just 3 days prior. White supremacy is a poison that had been allowed to fester and grow right in front of our eyes, Biden said in his prepared remarks that day. We need to say as clearly and forcefully as we can, the ideology of white supremacy has no place in America, Biden said. Silence is complicity. We cannot remain silent. Venom and violence cannot be the story of our time, he said. Biden tried to strike a hopeful note in some of his remarks. In America, evil will not win, I promise you. Hate will not prevail, and white supremacy will not have the last word, the president said. Asking Eric, friend's body odor, bad hygiene causes awkward conflict. Dear Eric, we are friends with a disabled veteran who is despised and neglected by his family. Another friend drives him around so he can get out of the house and interact with other human beings. I'm a professional artist and was exhibiting at an art craft show this past weekend. The veteran and his friend came to enjoy the show and to see me. I welcomed their friendship, but had to tactfully ask them to sit a little more to the side since they were blocking access to my display. The hardest part is that the veteran does not take good care of himself. He has a very strong body odor, which is hard to deal with. I know it was affecting potential clients. What can I do without hurting this man's feelings? He has given so much and has no family support. What can I say or do? He really needs a bath and manicure, to say the least, but I'm sure he is totally unaware. Please suggest a solution. Odor of a friend. Dear friend, I think that this issue with the art craft show and any potential future shows is separate from the concern about your friend's cleanliness. With regard to his presence at the shows in the future, be clear in advance about where guests can sit, if anywhere. It's nice that they came to see and support you, but you were at work, and it's fine to put a boundary around that so that you can focus on talking with potential customers. You might even say, I'm sorry I can't spend time with you now, but let's catch up later. With regard to the smell, I think there's a way to talk to him about it gently but directly. It may bruise his ego, but if you couch it in genuine concern, his feelings will recover. You write that he needs to help getting out to see other people, so it stands to reason that he may also need in-home help. You might tell him, I care about you, and I notice that sometimes there's a smell. I don't say that to hurt your feelings. It makes me concerned that you're not getting the help you need. Are there other forms of support that might help you? He might need a home health aide. He might need help purchasing cleaning products. He might just need to know that someone cares about him. Dear Eric, several years ago, I was diagnosed with advanced cancer and had grueling treatment and surgeries for a long time. I didn't ask much of friends and family during it all, which is my style. Once I made it through, I invited people closest to me for a one-night getaway to celebrate, and I only asked those for whom travel would be a short car ride. I said the date would be mutually agreeable among everyone. My lifelong best friend never replied to the initial invitation, and a couple follow-ups. I told her how that hurt me, and she replied that she couldn't make the time for it due to her responsibilities as a mom, which I wouldn't understand because I am single. She has 2 older children and a capable husband, and she doesn't work. I have attended her bridal and baby showers, wedding weekend, kids' parties, hosted her bachelorette party, etc. I am blown away by this response. I am inclined to put this friendship to bed, as she demonstrated it's not important to her. Am I overreacting? Signed, Uncelebrated. Dear Uncelebrated, congratulations on making it through. I know the journey was far from easy. Your friend's response reads as pretty extreme in this context. It suggests there's some other underlying resentment that's prompted her to respond with a jab where no jab is necessary. It's quite possible that she really is overwhelmed by the responsibilities of her life, which is totally understandable and fair, but it's simple enough to say that and send regrets. There's something else going on in this friendship. I don't know what it is. It's very reasonable for you to want to celebrate and thank your loved ones, but somewhere along the way, the message of gratitude and goodwill got muddled. You certainly can't put this friendship to bed, but if you feel that there's something to be salvaged, and indeed, as a lifelong best friend, I would think there is, I'd suggest having a conversation to clear the air. You might say something like, I think that we miscommunicated somewhere along the way, and I'd like to reset with you. With these conversations, it's good to share what comments or actions hurt in the past, but the focus should mostly be on figuring out where the misalignment is so that you can avoid similar situations in the future. You are listening to a reading of today's Buffalo News on your Niagara Frontier Radio reading service. The time is 10:30. Stanley Cup playoffs, first round. The time is now. Boston Bruins and Buffalo Sabres. This series schedule is Boston Bruins versus Buffalo Sabres. Game 1, Boston at Buffalo, 7:30 p.m. ET Sunday. It's on MSG and ESPN. Game 2, Boston at Buffalo, 7:30 p.m. ET Tuesday. It's on MSG and ESPN. Game 3, Buffalo at Boston, 7 p.m. ET Thursday, MSG, TNT, True TV, HBO Max, SN360, and TVAS. Game 4, Buffalo at Boston, 2 p.m. ET, April 26, MSG, TNT, True TV, HBO Max, SN, and TVAS. Game 5, if necessary, Boston at Buffalo, April 28th, to be determined. Game 6, if necessary, Buffalo at Boston, May 1st, to be determined. Game 7, if necessary, Boston at Buffalo, May 3rd, to be determined. After a season of rotating now, it's Luukkonen's net. The Sabres' three-headed goalie finished third in the NHL this season with a team save percentage of .907. Last season, the club was 30th at .888. Lots of folks like to use the buzzwords that face-offs matter. I say saves matter. The author of this article is Mike Harrington. Through his own stellar play, Alex Lyon's last season injury, Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen has established himself as the team's number one netminder for the playoffs. But Luukkonen, Lyon, and Colton Ellis have defied the long-standing NHL logic that three-man goalie groups won't work. Sabres goaltending coach Mike Bales, who was hired by former GM Jason Botterill to join Ralph Kruger's staff in 2019, is pumped on his own about getting back to the playoffs after winning Stanley Cups in Pittsburgh in 2016 and 2017. He was among the goalies, has defined their play. All three guys have been great. It's a credit to them, Bale said last week. Anytime you're dealing with pro athletes, obviously all want the net. But just having an open line of communication with all three guys and letting them have that same thing with me has really helped. Different times during the year, we had guys injured, which helps that you already have your third guy here. So he's already integrated with the guys in the system. It is Luukkonen's net for game 1 of the first round Sunday night against the Boston Bruins, but Lyon is getting healthier and seems like he could be an option soon. We all know Coach Lindy Ruff's playoff paths have been to ride his top goaltender, although the Sabres' history this year shows they won't hesitate to make a switch if needed. Bales and Ruff, who routinely defers to his goalie specialists, got very strategic about their lineup once they started an alternating goalie plan in early February. Luukkonen and Lyon would shift between starter and press box scratch each game, while Ellis would be on the bench as the backup every night. Of course, you want to play as much as you can, but the situation with the rotation was working for us, Luukkonen said. You try to build up your week. You know when you're playing games, and the next time you're working with Balsey. All three of us have a really good relationships with him, and you have time in between the games to mentally and physically prepare yourself every time. So rotation is a thing that worked for us this year. I don't talk about Mike Bales enough, Lyon said after one game in January. He's been great for me personally and for my game. So I'm really appreciative of that. When you have a goalie room with guys that are competitive and care about winning, I think those types of things kind of build on themselves, and it's really helped that along. The Sabres are the only team with two goalies in the NHL's top 20 in MoneyPuck.com's goals saved above expected rankings. Lyon is 11th at plus minus 12.6, while Luukkonen is tied for 15th at minus 10.5. Last year, Luukkonen was ranked 90th at minus 8.6. Al's been great, and it's awesome having him interact with the other two guys, Bale said of Lyon. He's been around. He's got a lot of experience that he's openly shared. He's just been a rock for all of us this year. On balance, Luukkonen has looked calmer in the creases this season and hasn't floated out of the position nearly as much. Bales didn't think that was entirely true, noting that idea could be a reflection of the team's much more refined defensive play in front of the net. But Luukkonen's work ethic has defined this year's growth. He's always been a kid that puts everything he has into it, very committed to his craft, Bale said. He wanted to rebound from last season, came in with the right mindset, and it was unfortunately he got hurt right before and during training camp. That kind of put a little bit of a hiccup into the whole start of the season for him, but he has responded great, has done everything that we have asked him to do. We all can see he's been playing really well for us. Sabres general manager Jarmo Kekalainen agreed. His confidence has been growing all year. He looks calm, he looks confident on the net. Kekalainen said prior to Wednesday's season finale against Dallas, he's got the obvious tools, the size, and the goaltending skills that I'm not the best guy to analyze. But for me, he just looks confident and calm and composed, and those are big qualities for goalies. The Sabres have cut down the odd man rushes they've given up this season, with the forwards doing a much better job of tracking back on pucks through the neutral zone and covering for defensemen getting into an offensive foray. We play with so much more predictability and more relief, Luukkonen said. The scoring chances are much more easy to read than the defense is playing like they are. I feel like there's some chances which look more dangerous than they actually are. Bales tutored Matt Murray in Pittsburgh on the Penguins Stanley Cup runs, and Luukkonen actually has far more NHL experience now than Murray had in 2016. Matt had played a couple years in the AHL without much NHL experience. UPL has that experience, but just not in the playoffs yet, Bales noted. It's hockey, and they've all played their whole lives to go for these moments. Their goal is to get to the Stanley Cup playoffs and see where we can go. You don't address it much differently with them day to day than the regular season. You just stay kind of the same coach for them. Bales agreed with the idea things will get magnified in the playoffs, but insists that the impact can quickly be lessened. Really, it depends on who's doing the magnifying, he joked. It's not going to get magnified for me, that's for sure. It's the same process that I do with them all year. That's what they need, and that's what they're going to want. We'll go through video every day and address anything that we need to do. No need to change anything just because everybody else is paying a lot more attention. Huge scare for Trocheck in Buffalo. Rangers center Vincent Trocheck told a downright scary tale at the team's locker cleanout day Friday in Tarrytown, recounting how he missed a month after an injury in the season opener at KeyBank Center. The team called it an upper body ailment when, in fact, it was a serious bacterial infection that left him hospitalized for a week. Trocheck said the infection initially felt like back spasms, but quickly got worse when he was cross-checked during the Rangers' 4-0 win over the Sabres on October 9th. It was very scary. I thought I was dying, Trocheck said. Whatever fluid was in there, it's like bubbles, and I guess the bubbles burst and it spread, so then it just got a lot worse. I had a lot of fluid around my lungs, so I had to have surgery to get the fluid removed, chest tubes, whatever. Trocheck returned November 10th and had no further issues. He played 65 of the Rangers' remaining 66 games and won a gold medal with Team USA at the Olympics in Milan. Mike Weber out in St. Louis. Former Sabres defenseman Mike Weber and longtime former NHL coach Claude Julien are out as assistants in St. Louis as the Blues announced Friday that their expiring contracts would not be renewed. We want to give them the opportunity to move on to the next chapter of their coaching careers while we work to build a coaching staff that is best suited to lead our team moving forward, Blues president GM Doug Armstrong said in a statement. Weber, who played 341 games for the Sabres from 2008 to 16 and was an assistant in Rochester under Seth Appert from 2020 to 2023, has been with the Blues for 3 seasons. Julien has more than 20 years of head coaching experience, including a Stanley Cup with Boston in 2011 before joining the St. Louis staff as an aide to Jim Montgomery in 2024. Weber's current claim to fame in Buffalo is his assist on the Sabres' just winning goal in the playoffs, Tyler Ennis' overtime tally that won Games 5 in Philadelphia on April 24, 2011. Around the boards, Because everybody keeps asking, we're likely to do so every game of the series. The Sabres Bruin games are available locally on both MSG and the national network, be it ESPN or TNT. There are no blackouts of any kind. MSG is done after round 1 and broadcasts our national networks only starting on round 2. Ballots were due Friday from members from the Professional Hockey Writers Association for the NHL's annual awards. PHWA members, including this coroner, voted for the Hart, Norris, Calder, Selke, Lady Bennig, and Masterton trophies, as well as All-Star and All-Rookie teams. All votes will be revealed in June when winners are announced. A reminder, the Jack Adams Award for Coach of the Year, which would go to Lindy Ruff, is selected by the NHL Broadcasters Association. It's wild to see all the GM movement out here. Vancouver was added to the list of openings Friday when Patrick Alvin was let go, and New Jersey came off it Thursday when it hired Florida assistant Sonny Mehta. Elsewhere, Toronto and Nashville have openings. Alex Dean is moving up to take over for long-timer Armstrong in St. Louis, and you have to wonder whether Detroit can continue on with Steve Yzerman after the Wings collapsed over the season's final 2 months. It was going to be a big deal that teams will have a daily salary cap starting with these playoffs, but it's apparently not going to be an issue. Deputy Commissioner Bill Daley confirmed to Pierre Lebrun of TSN and The Athletic that none of the 16 playoff qualifiers are in any danger of having cap issues, presumably because nobody used the now outlawed loophole of the stacking their team with new players and the regular season while putting others on long-term injured reserve and getting them back for the playoffs. The NHL has announced the draft lottery will be May 5th. Pretty amazing to finally not have the Sabres not be a part of it. Dahlin is on the brink of a career first. His first game in the Stanley Cup playoffs, Sabres Dahlin to compete like crazy in postseason. Rasmus Dahlin never thought of cashing it in and heading to greener pastures where playoff hopes appear to be abound. The defenseman from Sweden has gone through the lean years with the Buffalo Sabres, the so-close years and the we never really had a chance, did we seasons. The era was frustrating for every competitor who was part of the Sabres organization. But in it, Dahlin set forth a personal challenge. "This is my home," Dahlin said. "This is who drafted me. I'm not a quitter. That's what I take a lot of pride in. I'm not one of those that it would be easy to leave. They drafted me, so it's up to me to turn it around." Finally, the captain is about to reap what he has sown. The Sabres are entering their playoff era. Dahlin is on the brink of a career first. His first game of the Stanley Cup playoffs when the Sabres opened their first round series at 7:30 p.m. Sunday in Game 1 against the Boston Bruins at KeyBank Center. The Sabres are back in the playoffs for the first time in 15 years. Dahlin has been with the Sabres for 8 seasons, but he and the Sabres have 7 empty springs from 2019 to 2025. Dahlin was 11 years old the last time the Sabres made the playoff in the spring of 2011. He was 4 days away from his 19th birthday in April 2019 when the Sabres missed the playoffs in his rookie NHL season. The Sabres were packing up their equipment and scattering across the globe for the start of the offseason, right around the time players on 16 NHL teams started growing playoff beards. Dahlin and his teammates helped put the narrative in the rearview mirror this season. The Sabres won the Atlantic Division and registered its 10th regular season with its least 100 points in team history. Once projected as a foundation for the rebuild of the Sabres, Dahlin has worked and waited for this moment. He has done more than just stick around the NHL in those 8 years. He has developed into one of the league's top young defensemen. Anybody who's been here a long time, whether it be staff, whether it be players, has endured a lot, Sabres right wing Beck Malenstein said. There's been some hard, trying times, a lot of different conversations, a lot of different people and pieces that have come in and out. It's just a testament to how hard he has worked, how he stuck with it. He stayed loyal to this team and to the city, as have other guys, to see the appreciation that people have for him being here, for working for everything. He is our leader. To put Dahlin 8 years in Buffalo in perspective, the Sabres have had 3 general managers since he was drafted in 2018. Jason Botterill, Kevin Adams, and Jarmo Kekalainen. Dahlin has played for 4 coaches since he is drafted by the Sabres: Phil Housley, Ralph Grigo, Don Granato, and Lindy Ruff. 5 different teams have won the Stanley Cup since 2018 season: St. Louis in 2019, Tampa Bay in 2020 and 2021, Colorado in 2022, Vegas in 23, and Florida in 24 and 25. It is a lot more complicated and enduring for Dahlin. Nearly 8 years ago, the Sabres made Dahlin an 18-year-old 6'2" defenseman from Frölunda of the Swedish Hockey League, the top pick in the 2018 NHL draft in Dallas. Dahlin has accomplished a lot in professional hockey. He has played in 586 games with 102 goals and 332 assists. He finished 6th in the Norris Trophy voting, the award given to the NHL's top defensemen.
The following program is intended for listeners who are blind, have low vision, or have another print disability, which makes reading,